Welcome back to another episode of Look What Jess Found. Today is episode 314. And if you, hopefully you watched yesterday's episode. I got my coffee here. And you would have noticed that if you're paying close attention, that there was several pennies that I put to the side for research. That one came out good. That I put to the side for research, 4 to be exact. And I actually did a separate video on the research, and then I did a separate video on the on one of the other pennies. And in total, I think there was about 6 or 7 copper pennies. But if I was to make an observation about, what's going on, as far as it's always the first one, right? That's odd. Looks rimless, doesn't it? Oh, very, very thin. Is that I'm beginning to have a sharper eye when it comes to looking for possible dye variations. Now, out of the 4 pennies, I only identified one as a dye variation. One of them I identified as most likely a deteriorated dye. Only because it was not found on copper coins. What do you think? Copper penny? Oh man, it's so difficult to tell. I can't tell. My initial instinct is to say yes, but then I have this nagging feeling like it's an 83. It's an 81. Look, I got fooled so many times by those 83s. Around the board with a copper. Oh, look at the beauty on this one. I'll be honest with you, this one almost looks like a special strike. It's a 2023. Wow. Let's see if there's the extra B. I doubt it. Oh, I don't get my light on. Hello. No. It's the reverse, to be honest with you. That looks the obverse is very shiny also, but really it's the reverse. There's something about that reverse. It looks different than the obverse for whatever reason. It could be a mistake. The reverse could be a mistake. Like maybe they struck the well, you can't strike the reverse hard, right? Because that's the top. So what does that mean? Oh yeah, I'm able to. I'm able. Oh, look at that. Uh, Question is it centered or is it just dirty and corroded? Can't tell. I think it's centered. Yeah, you can see that. You can see the centering on the rim. It's not worth anything, but it's important to notice. Centered scent. So oh yeah. So what does that mean, right? If this is copper, another 81. That's weird. What it means is that if there's hope for me, there's hope for you. That's what it means. Long story short, if there's hope for me, there's hope for you. That's it. That's it. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I first started doing this, I used to get so frustrated. Penny roll hunting. When I say do this, I mean penny roll hunting. Um, because people would either leave nasty comments or I would get um, information in contrary to what I was believing, and that would like shock my brain. Like the Matrix. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Like I always use this as an example. I have to be honest. The person who's helped me the most throughout this process is my long term member and buddy, Eric from keeneEyeCollectables. He has an awesome Discord site. Click the link below. It says Discord. It's the only Discord site I got is his. I would really highly recommend anyone who's interested in the art of penny errors to click it. And along the way, he was patient with me and said, "Oh yeah, that's this. Oh no, that's that." And what I could recall going back is my brain being shocked, Bzzz, like zapped. Bzzz. Like what do you mean? And the example that I like using the most, we're looking for the wide AM. No wide AM. Looks like it has a grease strike along the whole bottom of states and of oh. And we can see it's the top of the letters. That's pretty cool. So, for example, I basically started the channel in the end of 2024, beginning of 2023, something like that. I had a few episodes, a few videos at the like in December of 2023 that got the channel kickstarted, but I didn't really start with the episodes until early 2024. But I guess searching 2023 roles was still very popular, right? Looking for that extra V. We're looking for the wide AM, no wide AM. And Eric tells me, he goes, yeah, look for the extra V, look for the extra V. And he goes, on the 2023, look for the extra V. So what did I do? I started to look for the extra V on every single penny. Or was it, maybe it was every single shield cent. All right, we got ourselves an 82 small date, very obvious small date. Look at the line under the chin. Look how odd that is, right? That's my pointer. Keep it in a jar on my desk now with my pocket change. Look at that straight line under his chin. Looks like a die clash. Anything on the reverse that's die clashy? Let me get a little closer. Not really. I've seen this line before, I think. That is so straight. It really, really looks like a die clash. And of course, you know the 2 is a small date because it looks like a question mark. The question is this copper or is this zinc? And it's you can see the little blisters. I believe this is zinc. A zinc Philadelphia small date with a possible die clash. Look at that line. We have to weigh it though, so let's not screw around here. Let's pull the scale out. I'm going to say somewhere around 2.5. Bingo, bango, bongo. All right, so I was right. Copper, Philadelphia. I'll leave it on the desk. Small date. And he said, "Oh, look for the extra V." He goes, "On the 2023, make sure you look for the extra V." But my brain did not compute. He meant only on the 2023. My brain said, I had a 2023 and I didn't check the extra V, but there's an extra V on all pennies that I'm not looking for. That's what my brain said, which is totally asinine. But that's the way brains work. Brains are asinine, especially mine. See, look, you can see the line under the chin. See, the other one was just stronger, but you can see the line there, so it's not a die clash. So I started making videos, and my video is like, every penny I would go like, oh, is that, like, there's a little line here, right? I would go, oh, is that the extra V? And I would go like this. I would start zooming in on it. Oh, look, that might be the extra V. That might be the extra V. It looks like a V. And and of course, on the next, after I upload the video, he left me a comment. He goes, "No, man, it's not on every penny. It's only on the 2023." And my brain went zzz, zzz, zzz. Like, my brain had to try to compute because it really thought something, right? Like, if you think, I'll give you an example. All right, I'm gonna give you it's a dumb example, so don't get triggered, okay? For all you conspiracy theorist nuts like me. See, I'm a conspiracy theorist nut, but I don't push my conspiracy theorists on anybody. Anyway, so like, let's say you think we went to the moon, right? In the 1960s, right? With a computer the size of a building that is 1/10 the power of the current Apple iPhone that everybody, little kids, got in their pocket, right? So if you think that in the 1960s we went to the moon, but in 2024 we can't, right? That would be like me telling you in the 1960s we were able to drive to Florida, but today we can't do it. It's the same thing. There's no difference, right? Hey, did you hear about that place called Florida? Yeah, I remember when we used to drive down there in the 1960s. Remember that? Yeah, man. But we lost the technology to drive down there. I know, that's crazy. Anyway, so, but let's say, then all of a sudden you'd find out that one day, like, that we really didn't go, like, for example, right? One day we'll be able to get. We can put rovers on Mars, right? Which Mars. Check this out. Want to hear something funny? How far away is Mars from Earth? Mars is 140 million miles from Earth. Okay. How far away is the moon from the Earth? 230, and there's a 239,000 miles. Okay. One is 140 million miles, and the other one is 239,000. That's a pretty big difference, man. I think it takes how long? And you know what? Let me go. How far away is the Mars? How long does it take to get to Mars from Earth? I thought it was like a month or something like that. 9 months. It takes 9 months to get to Mars. Holy mo! I didn't even know that. I thought it was like a month or two. 9 months. It takes whatever it takes. Well, it takes a day to get to the moon, or a half a day, whatever. Right? Okay, so we have what's that called? The little robots, the little RC cars. We send them to Mars all the time, and we send little things that float down and we look at to Mars. For what 14 million mile, whatever it is that I said before. Wait, I can tell you right now. I just back page it. 140 million miles. Holy. Anyway, that's I can't even believe these numbers are so ridiculous. But let's say one day you find out, oh, the reason we never sent a camera to the moon to debunk that we were there, right? Because I think there's supposed to be like 7, 8 like SUV size rovers on the moon, right? That for some reason, do you know that the what was it called, the telescope, the Hubble telescope is able to read the Hubble, and that was from what, the 70s or 80s. We have new ones up there that are light years better, of course, but the Hubble was able to read the newspaper print of your newspaper. That's what I remember being told as a kid, if that's true or not. But we can't see one of the rovers on the moon. Okay. Or the flag. How many flags do we put there? But there should be like how many times do we go up there? There should be a flag every time we went. Anyway, maybe there's not. Whatever. But imagine one day you find out that the reason we sent little remote control cars to Mars at 140 million miles away instead of the moon that's at 200,000, 200, whatever, 300,000 miles away is because there's nothing there, right? There's no rovers there. There's no flag. We've never been there. A human being has never been to the moon because of the radiation belt. The same reason why we don't have anything else that just goes, that we have nothing today that goes that past the Van Halen, whatever it is called, the radiation belt around Earth. We have nothing. We have nothing. No one's done it. No one's ever done it again. We have no space shuttle that goes, hey, let's just go a little further out and come back in. Nothing. Right. So let's say one day you find out that wasn't true. You would probably be like your whole reality. So that's what happened to me with the 2023. He said, no, it's the 2020. The V is only on the 20. My brain couldn't compute. My brain was, and this is what happens with penny roll hunting in general. Excuse me, with learning about coin errors in general. What is this? Is that think it's an 83, and that's just some stuff on it. Is that, you're going to try to make sense of everything that you see, and in that process, you're going to make things up to try to. Do you know that when you look at something, when you look at an image, if the image is incomplete, that your brain will fill in the image like a puzzle? Like if there's a puzzle and you take out a few of the, you could take out a lot of the pieces. I don't know what the percentage is, and your brain will fill it in, right? And if you take out the wrong pieces, your brain might fill it in to look like something that's incorrect, because that's just how the brain works. It wants to make sense of the world, right? So your brain doesn't want to believe that our government is going to lie to us and tell us that we didn't go to the moon, right? Because whatever, 1,000 people witnessed it, right? But meanwhile, they really didn't witness anyway. So your brain believes that, and they say we went there, but we can't do it now. Just like Florida, we went there in the '60s, but we can't go there now. It's impossible. We don't have the technology, right? So, but your brain wants to believe it because the alternative doesn't. Your brain can't handle the alternative, or it just fills it in that way for whatever reason. So the same thing happens with coin errors. Like you'll see something like this. Like let's say your financial situation is dire straits and all you have is 50 cents. All of a sudden, your brain might say, listen, like a scratch off ticket, that we have $1. We have to win on this one. That happened to me once. I had a scratch off, and for whatever reason, like I'm saying right now, talking to you about, I thought I won on the scratch off. It was like a horse racing scratch off. It was a weird one. I never seen it before. Never seen it again. And it was super complicated, man. And all these rules, and it was a BS little tiny scratch off. But for whatever reason, it said like, cherry, cherry, cherry. And I was like, I won, and I'm jumping up and down. I bring it to the guy, the counter. I won. He says, no, I scanned it. It says, no, but look, it's a mistake. Look, read what it says. It says 3 cherries. And the guy actually looked, and he said, oh, look at that. We got 2023. The guy looked. Let me look for the extra V. And he couldn't even understand what he was looking at. You see, it looks like there's an extra V on this, but I'm pretty sure it's dirt. Man, does that look like the extra V? Let me clean it. Use my t-shirt. And he had to like really stare at it and read it a few times. And I'm telling you, man, it had to be like 5 minutes of him reading it and looking at it. He goes, no, man. He goes, it's not the 3 extra cherries going in that direction. It's the 3 extra cherries going in the other direction. So you see 3 of them, but you're seeing them going left to right, and it's up to down. They have to go and meet each other. And I was like, what? Yeah, that's dirt, man. That's extra. Yeah, it's not extra V. It's extra dirt. Extra D. As long as I'm here, I'll look at the other letters. And my brain saw what my brain wanted to see. My brain wanted to see a $5,000 scratch off for $1. And that's a very typical. I went through it. I remember. You know what? And the funny thing is, I've been doing so much coin roll hunting that really I've learned a lot in the past 11 months, right? Going on a year now. That I have good perspective and understanding because I've done it so quickly, you know? But if, let's say you learn what I learned over the course of 10 years, it'll be like slowly boiling a crab. You know, you're not going to realize what you're just going to know a little bit more, a little bit more, right? Because let's say I do one a day. Let's say you do one every 10 days. So you'll do as much as me over the course of 10 years for every year I do, because you're doing 10% less, 90% less. So you might not realize it, but I've realized it from doing it so fast and so often and talking to people as often as I do, that my brain's getting zapped less. What's the what is the moral of the story? Is that my brain gets right? I still get corrected all the time. I always got to check. Look at the 8. I can see it from here. I can see the little line going through the 8 from this. For something about these 68s, man, they're full of errors. Look at that. That's a beauty. Look at the line. Do you see it? In the 8, the bottom circle, there's a line going from the bottom. You can see it. It's even sticking out, man. Let me look at this under the loop. These damn 68s, man. I'm telling you, man. They get me. And the I and N is always looks like it's notched or separating for some reason. Now this one, I gotta be honest. See, there's too much damage to this. There's too much damage. Is that an error? You know what? I'll even go so far as to say it probably is. Um, but there's other not environmental damage. There's other post mint damage that is there that really looks similar to the error that's on the 8. You know what I mean? The die, whatever, you know, double smack. The die was double smacked or whatever it is that it gave the die that little line there. So I'm not even going to hold on to it. I'll be honest with you. We didn't find much copper today. We only found we're at 4 so far. So the moral of the story is twofold. One, but it's really not even. It's just really one. It's not even twofold. One is that my brain gets less zapped now. Like, so for example, if someone would say to me, "Hey, Jess, you got turn on the news. You're not gonna believe this. The government admits we never went to the moon. Can you believe it?" Now, since I believe we went to the moon, right? I believe that with enough, it'd be like me telling you that in 1960s, we drove to Florida on a soda can, you know, on 12 ounces of gas, right? Because supposedly to get to the moon and back, it takes enough rocket fuel, like the size of like 10, like maybe something like 100 times the size of what we used in the 60s, right? That's what I heard that before. I heard that like some ridiculous amount, right? Because obviously, if that much only went into close um, spinning, whatever that's called when you're going around the Earth orbit, if it took that much fuel just to go into orbit, right, to go hundreds of thousands of miles further and then stop, right, because there's such weak gravity on the moon that if you're going 15,000 miles per hour, it would take that much. It would take so much fuel to like. There's not enough gravity, right? I mean, that whole thing about slingshotting, you're talking about like gravity of the sun, right? To, you know, like super strong gravity to pull something and out of orbit, and the gravity of the moon can't grab it can barely keep people down on the ground, right? Without freaking floating off, right? It's 1/6 the gravity of the earth. Anyway, so obviously it would take so much fuel, right? And there was no more fuel, right? Because all the fuel fell off of the or 99% of the fuel fell off of the when it dropped. So imagine they say, right? They say, oh yeah, we used to drive down in the 60s with those huge engines. We used to drive down to Florida on a can on 12 ounces of gas. But today, you know, to drive there and back, it takes like 2 tankfuls or whatever, right? Or an electric car, it takes whatever it takes, right? And then you find out, oh, that wasn't true. They lied to us about going to Florida in the 60s on a tank on a. You'd be like, wow, I can't believe they lied. And now it wouldn't shock me anymore. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. If I found out that we did not go to the moon today, if I found, because I believe we did, right? We must have went to the moon. We had to, right? Because they told us we did. So, but let's say we found out we did, it wouldn't shock me. This is what penny roll hunting has helped me with. It's helped me to be open to facts. Ain't that crazy? Because I thought there was an extra V on every penny. But the fact of the matter is, there's only an extra V on the 2023. And I could have argued that and a million people could, but that's not the fact is it's only on the 2023, the extra V. And I had to listen to somebody who knew, who had the facts, who had experience, right? My buddy Eric, he had the experience. I had to listen to him. I couldn't be an extra V denier, right? I could have been, but then that would have been childish. I don't want to say stupid, because our brain wants to fill in the blanks. Our brain wants to believe what our brain wants to believe. So it doesn't make you stupid. It just makes you human. But to be a good penny roll hunter and a good coin, to understand about coins, you have to be open minded, and you have to be willing to let go some of your false beliefs, because sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, right? They might tell us one day, you know, it's impossible to get. I mean, today, you know, obviously maybe they have better fuel and stuff, so it might take less, right? Same thing with you have little engines, so maybe you can get to Florida on 5 gallons of gas, but never in history could we ever get there on 12 ounces of gas, Celine, right? Now, as of this point, maybe in another 100 years we can get to Florida on. But if you believe that someone told you that and you believed it, um, in contrary to all the evidence, and they said, you know, I seen it. 1,000 people watched the video. Meanwhile, the video was of a guy, right? And he didn't really drive to Florida on 12 ounces of gas. They showed the studio, right? They showed the studio, and he had signs every like 3 or 4 blocks. There was a sign of a different state. And he stopped. He took a smoke break. He's like, we're losing transmission, solar flares. And 1,000 people in the studio actually thought he was still driving, but he stopped the car to have a cigarette break. And imagine, so they were like, no, there were 1,000 witnesses. We saw him go to Florida, man. Every few hours he passed the state. And someone said, no, man, he stopped to take a cigarette. Remember that transmission? He wasn't driving during that time. When he said there was a solar flare, You're like, what? Yeah, like he wasn't driving. Your brain would be like, holy I can't believe they fooled millions, billions of people. Yeah, man. It was just, but so the whole thousands of people, yeah, thousands of people saw BS. And thousands of people bought it, and so did billions of people, right? You tell a lie or whatever to enough people, then they'll buy it. Oh, we got another 1982. I still have the so so penny roll hunting is very similar to that phenomenon. And that is, you have to kind of be open to believing other things. It's, and look at that zinc. I don't know why. See, now see when I see this, I think copper, right? Because it looks like copper. But if I don't have something to measure it by, I'll never know. I really thought this was a copper penny. I thought it was going to say 3.1, and it didn't. It said 2.5. It's an illusion, man. Right? The U.S. government in 1982 decided to make a penny that looks like a copper penny to deceive us, so that our brain wouldn't know that they're giving us garbage, something that's worth 1/3 of the metal value of the coin from decades and decades prior to that. And this was proof. It fooled me. I thought this 1982 was copper. It's not. It's zinc. Zinc does have some type of value, but if you notice that zinc corrodes, right? There's something called zinc rot. Copper is it's a very durable metal. It has a function. But they tricked us in 1982 to look at this, be like, yeah, it's the same. It has the same value. It does not have the same value. It could be worth. It's probably worth less than the. You know, I even look it up. How much is the amount of zinc in a penny worth? Let me see. It's worth a fraction of a cent. Says it right here. That's the question. The amount of zinc in a modern penny post 1982 is worth only a fraction of a cent. Typically less than half of a cent. Typically less than half of a cent. So a copper penny is worth over 3 cents. See, that's why you don't call it a penny, right? I'm sorry, that's why you don't call it a cent, because it's not worth a cent. You see, did you read that? This is a very good segue. This is why a penny is not a cent, because it's only worth a fraction. The cent is the value of it. And so you cannot call this, you cannot call this a cent. It's not worth a cent. You understand? This is not a cent. A cent would be, it's worth, let's say it's worth half. It says typically it's worth less than half a cent, a zinc penny. So you need 2 of these pennies to be worth 1 cent. So how can this be worth 1 cent? See, this is a lie. This is a lie. It's not worth 1 cent. That's a lie. But your brain, most of you who are watching this video, your brain is going to get zapped right now by that information that they're lying. This is a lie. It's not 1 cent. It's less than half a cent. I'm going to show you what 1 cent is. Here you go. Now it says it's typically less than half of a cent. So this isn't 1 cent either. You need a little bit more. You need a little piece. You need a little piece of another penny, and then you'll have 1 cent. So you need 2 and a little bit, and then you have 1 cent. Now, does your brain compute that? No, because you believe what you're told. Your brain wants to believe. how could billions of billions of billions and billions of these be lying to you? They are. They are. You've been lied to. This is a lie. It's not worth 1 cent. It's 1 penny that's worth a fraction, less than half of a cent, which is a value. A cent is a value. This is not a value. This is not worth 1 cent. That's it. That's facts. And your brain is going to have a problem with that. Now, until your brain starts to accept facts, you will struggle with learning penny errors, because your brain's going to want to see things that are not there, right? So your brain's going to want to see a double die where there's no double die. I was watching a Copper Coins video the other day, right? And if you watch him, he's good. He has a very good website. He does very good videos. But even him, he was going through it and he was like, "Oh, what is this?" And I remember it was a pretty cool phenomenon for me to see somebody who's an expert. This guy is an expert. Do you understand that? An expert. And you know what he said while he was looking at it? He goes, "I'm just seeing what." He goes, "Is this a double die, or am I just seeing what I want to see?" He actually said that live. Or am I just seeing what I want to see? He goes, "It's probably not." He goes, "I'm going to have to lean on the side of caution and say that it's not a double die, and it's probably just post mint damage." He said that in his video. And it took an expert who's probably maybe has looked at millions of pennies, and he's still struggling with facts. So imagine the average person. You'll want to see you'll think everything's a double die. Oh, how much is this? That's the question I get the most. How much is this worth? How much? You're dying to find a penny that's worth $100. You're dying for it. You're dying to find a scratch off on the floor that's a winner. And you're not, man. You're not. Sorry. I mean, you might, but it's going to happen when you least expect it. And that is the lesson of today. This is zinc. It looks like copper, but it's not. It says 1 cent, but it's not worth 1 cent. You need 2 and a little bit to equal 1 cent. It's a lie. And until you can see the trees from the forest, your brain, Joe Rogan had this dude on. It was such a cool episode. The guy who did this guy did a video, a movie, right? And it's called man, what is it? He pretends to be woke. I forgot what the movie is. And he goes and he goes to people. He goes like he's a Confederate. He's a Confederate. He goes to on these shows and he says, yeah, whatever it is that woke people think. And he did a really popular movie on it, like a documentary. So this guy had dedicated a portion of his life to showing his truth to the world, right? But when he went on Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan starts talking to him about that we never went to the moon, watch this video. His brain went, what he talk? Yo, he got angry at Joe Rogan, just like the people that he went undercover with about wokeness and trying to show the holes in their theory. Joe Rogan did it to him and the Joe Rogan show. So he's not some sort of enlightened being. He just happened to have an understanding, according to him, about a certain social phenomenon called wokeness. And he made a documentary on showing the flaws in that way of thinking, according to him, right? Well, he went on Joe Rogan and he didn't realize that he's not some sort of enlightened being. When Joe Rogan said, "What are you talking about? How do we do this? That's not true. The cameras and this, and there's no wind in space, but the flags can't move. There's no wind." So you might say, yeah, but but things can still move, right? Yeah, things can still move in space, but in the same direction. They can't come back. So a flag that's moving in this direction will keep going until it makes a full circle, and eventually it would just keep spinning around the pole. It can't unless there's a force on it to go the opposite direction. It can't wave. Nothing can move on its own uh, volition, excuse me, in space. If it starts to move one direction, it'll keep going in that direction. So if a flag is moving to the right, it'll keep going in a wrap around the pole. For it to go, for a flag to go like this and then come back, it has to get pushed like by the wind, or if it's on a string, then it would just wobble, because of gravity of the earth. If it's on like like a fishing lure that you can't see, then it would go like this. It would waggle because of, it's just hanging on a string in a studio. It'll waggle. It'll go back and forth. But there's no gravity on the moon. But there's a little bit of gravity, but there's no wind. Excuse me. There's no wind. So if something's moving in one direction, which would have been cool, what would have been cool if they would have picked up a moon rock and then they would have threw it like a million miles and you could have watched it anyway. That would have been pretty cool if they would have did that, but they didn't for some reason. They didn't have the technology to do that. Anyway, so the guy on Joe Rogan, when Joe Rogan starts talking to him about that the moon landing never happened, or the possibility that it never happened, this dude got freaked. He's like, "What are you talking about?" He actually became a client. He became a disbelief. He became the very thing that he was researched. You see how this works? Isn't that crazy? This enlightened dude goes on Joe Rogan, and he made a fool of himself, in my opinion. Because Joe Rogan said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, and he is the same thing that he went to prove other people were. He's the same. That's just to show you how the brain works. My point is, again, if you want to become a good penny roll hunter, you need to be able to disbelieve what you believe. You need to be open to other people who know better than you. Um, the facts, the fact is, the chance of you finding an error is pretty slim. What is okay? Here's another 82. Looks copper to me. Is this one copper? So far, we found two of them, and I'm not sure if any of them. I know the last one was zinc. Let's see. Is this copper? Looks like copper. I think it's copper. Okay, so this one's copper. You don't know, right? You don't know. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. Now, is this worth 1 cent? At this point, you should understand what's going on here, right? This is not worth 1 cent. This is worth over 3 cents, right? And they were more valuable. So to trick you, they changed it from copper to zinc to trick us, not just you. I'm in the same world you are. They changed it to zinc to trick you into believing that zinc penny is worth 1 cent, and it's not. And you'll see people say, "No, that's a cent." It's not a cent. Matter of fact, you know what would be correct if they called this half cent. That would be close to the truth. That would be. I mean, on the zinc penny, I'm saying, not the copper. And if they called this one the 3 cent, that would be closer to. That would be closer to accuracy. But they don't want you to know the truth. Don't you understand that? They don't want you to know the truth. You can't handle the truth. Maybe we can't. Me personally, I'd rather know the truth. I don't like to be lied to. That's just one of my peeves. Maybe that's why I was a good. I was a very, very good interviewer, in my opinion. Of course, I, I pissed off a lot of clients, um, because not I shouldn't even say pissed off. I had a very good skill of doing it without them really getting upset. But I frustrated a lot of them because they were trying to lie, right? Because let's say you have let's say you get caught for a DUI, but you don't want to go to treatment. Um, you want to make you want to make the interviewer on your first interview believe that you don't have a problem, so you don't have to go to treatment. But and my understanding is that they did trick a bunch of therapists into believing that they weren't that they didn't have a problem not to go to treatment. But the bottom line is, if you were drinking and driving, you have a problem. Period. That's it. I mean, the problem was that you drank and you drove. So nothing could dispute that. What they thought was that you had to be an alcoholic to be in treatment. That's not true. And there were even some counselors who thought that also, but that's also, even the counselor was wrong. That's not true. You just have to have the impaired judgment. And if someone believes they didn't have impaired judgment by getting behind the wheel intoxicated, then they need treatment, even if it's whatever that amount might be. So and it was every single one of them that sat down in front of me were like, "Oh, I don't have a drinking problem." I was like, "Okay, sure, let's talk about it." And then I would say, what did you blow? What was your blood alcohol content? 2.5. I was like, "Oh." And then I'd say, now I knew what the next question was, right? For me to ask them, because they want to make themselves sound so good that they're gonna lie. So I would say, well, how close to getting behind the wheel did you have the drink before that? And they would say something like 2 hours. I didn't get behind it. I had my last drink 2 hours before I started driving. And I was like, okay, how long after you started driving did you get pulled over? It was like a half hour later. And I was like, how long after you got pulled over did you do the breathalyzer? Well, they made me do all those little things outside. It was like 15 minutes later. I said, okay, so you had your last drink 2 hours and 45 minutes prior to being breathalyzed. Yes. And you blew I forgot what I said, a 2.5. Yes. I said 2.5 is whatever. I'm going to make this up. It's like, is 4 beers. Yeah, maybe I had 4 beers. I said, no, it was 4 beers at the time you got breathalyzed. But you said you didn't have a drink till 2 hours before you started driving. So your body metabolized another 3 beers prior to getting in the car. Excuse me. From the time you got in, you said you stopped drinking 2.5 hours before you drove for half an hour, and then it was 15 minutes. So in that 2 hours and 45 minutes, you metabolized 3 beers. So you should have actually been. You said you only had 4, but you blew a 4, and you said you didn't drink for almost 3 hours. So that's 7. So you had 7 beers. You were intoxicated, and you didn't even know it. So that's a real serious problem, you know. And then when I started to shoot the facts to them, their brain would get zapped. What? Like like they thought they had the whole thing down, but once somebody came to them with the facts, I was like, no. I said, that's a serious problem. You think that's not a problem? But you obviously think it's not a problem because you're telling me that you don't have a problem, but you do have a problem. You could have killed somebody. You were seriously impaired, and you got behind a motor vehicle. Anyway, so I know this was one of these long. Oh, we got another copper. That's a beautiful copper. The nicest one we found today. Oh, look at that. Look, it has a little dent in it. Anything on the other side? I don't see it, but the dent's right here. You probably see it already. It's probably post-mint damage, but you have to... oh, look, you can see the little circle here. Interesting. Oh, look, you see the little square. I wonder what that's from. Anyway, so I try to talk about something different every video, you know. And today's video was just about work hard, listen um, to people who know better than you do, be open to the fact that 99% of the pennies you find are not even worth a cent. Learn about the errors and be open to the fact that 99% of the pennies that you think have an error have a worthless post-mint damage on it. And have patience, right? Patience with the process, have patience with the people who you want to know as much as, right? And then you're going to learn. Then you will become wise in the ways of the coin roll hunter. And there's a pretty good chance we didn't go to the moon. Thank you. God bless. And I'll see you in episode. This was 314. I'll see you in episode 315.